Bella is staring directly at my face. Um, I'm in mostly black because I'm in mourning. I have woken up to the realities of what this world is like in its current state a really long time ago. I mean, time is relative. So, really long is a couple of years. But I left the United States over 7 years ago for a reason. The country and the society that I lived in did not align with me. Like, there was just something deeply opposing about the life that I was living. I was doing all the things, I had all the things. I went to college. I was the first in my family to go to college out of high school. My grandfather later in life did get his master's degree, um, but he had to work his way up to that. He went back to school in adulthood. And so I went to a community college and then I went to a university, graduated with my bachelor's in criminal justice. I worked in the government for quite a few years. I worked as a contractor for Lockheed Martin, and they were contracted by the government to basically handle their intake, their letters, their emails, their faxes. We were getting a lot of letters from prisoners, actually. And that was the moment that I realized when you reach out to your many of your government officials in these offices that you believe are there to take care of you, you believe that you are going to be getting a response from someone who has the ability to at least pass along your concerns to the right person. That is not how it works. There's like a person like me who copy and paste a general statement based on whatever it is that you're writing about. Bella, hello? Ha! Aha! We're gonna hang out together, okay? Is that all right? Because you make a lot of noise. At this job, I realized how the government does not function the way that it should. Instead of actually reaching the office for victim services, you're reaching me, a government contractor, who copy and paste a response to you based on the genre of concerns that you have. I wanted to work in victim services and I saw how underfunded and insignificant this service or these services were treated within the government. The office of victim services is like the lowest concern for them. And I wanted to do good and I wanted to help people, and working in the government was not going to allow me to do that. So I switched gears and I went to hospitality. I worked at a rooftop bar, which was an incredible experience. And that's probably why I started a tequila brand. I don't want to work in an office. I have no interest in working in a bar either. So now I own a tequila brand where I can throw parties and celebrate as I wish. And that is why the brand was created, really, just to enhance the celebration of life. Um, and I am planning the 1 year anniversary party for my brand, Manita Tequila. I want to celebrate this milestone that I've worked so hard to get to. But as I say that, there's just like this pain and hurt and grief bubbling up in my chest about the incomprehensible loss of life in Gaza. I am one sea away from this region. In Europe, there is a large Arab, Muslim, Middle Eastern community. Where I lived in Berlin, in Germany, they have the second largest population of Palestinians outside of Palestine. And this feels dark. Bella and I exchange anxiety. Like, she's an anxious dog. Um, she's been through a lot of change. I tried to tell the story of Bella, but essentially, my mother had Bella after I moved out. So she was my mom's dog. And when my mom passed away, I had her kind of sent to Europe so she can live with me here. So she's been through a lot of change and she's lived a long life. She's almost 18. And so that's fair. She's a little anxious. She's small, the world is big, but she's resilient. If I lay you down, will you be quiet? Can you just hang out here just for a couple of minutes? Okay, thanks. I started out by saying I left the United States 7 years ago. And a very significant reason for that was waking up every morning and seeing like another dead Black person at the hands of police. Trayvon Martin definitely like woke a lot of people up. My mother especially. My mother really like became a social activist, if you will. Like on her social media, she shared not only Black history facts that like most people had never heard of, and I don't know where she was finding them. She was doing a lot of research in order to share just like everyday stories of Black history. And she also advocated for missing and murdered young Black children. Felicia Barnes was a case that happened in Maryland. A young woman went missing, was later found dead. She connected with the family of many young Black people who went missing through social media. My mother, if she were here today, like she would be an activist. And when she passed away, I said, I want to be more like my mom. And, you know, it took me some time to figure out what that meant for me. But in my spirit, I am an activist. And I don't have a large audience, but whatever audience I do have, I want to educate them and empower them and encourage them to care a bit more about what is happening to other people, because we are all directly connected. We are not as independent as capitalistic systems make it seem. We need and we thrive in community. When I see Africans on the street here, they say, my brother, my sister. And at first I'm like, I'm not your sister. You don't know me. And that's very American of me, honestly. But whether you think it's genuine or not, like there are people who see everyone as their brother and sister. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. I feel like there are so many people who say that they are of faith, but they do not follow the basic elements of any religion. I don't understand how it's now day 19 of the increasingly barbaric bombardment of a small strip of land where 2 million people plus live, half of which who are children. from the beginning, the war crimes were clear: cutting off food, water, and electricity, fuel. These people are drinking seawater now. There are dead people piled up in fear of disease running rampant. Their hospital system has collapsed because fuel is not allowed in. Hostages were offered to be released in exchange for fuel coming in, and it is reported that Israel turned this offer down. They do not want to allow fuel to keep hospitals running. Hospitals, synagogues, churches, residential areas have been targeted. Over 5,000 people have lost their lives, over 1 million people displaced. I sit in this apartment building. The structures in Spain look just like the structures in Gaza. Some high buildings, some low buildings, churches mixed in. It's a city. It's New York. It's Detroit. It's Berlin. It's any city. Just like imagine a city where it's like densely populated. And I imagine bombing this nursing home across the street from me, and then the rest of the world being like, that's war. It's 1313. I make a wish to end all war. I think a lot of the conversations happening around what's going on in Gaza come from a place of not seeing Palestinians as human beings. Like when someone holds up a dead baby with no head, I feel like I'm watching a horror movie. I'm watching a horror movie where doctors are performing surgery with the flashlight of their cell phone on the floor, and they're using vinegar to clean their tools. Babies who are in incubators are their lives are being threatened because they're running out of electricity, and they have no fuel to replenish. This is like an end of the world zombie movie where like every building is collapsed and abandoned, and there's no food anymore, and the streets are filled with dead bodies. Like, do you want to fucking live in a zombie movie? You think the shit's cute and funny or whatever they're doing on TikTok in Israel, doing makeup, doing videos where they pretend like they are fake blood, how you do a DIY with ketchup and shit. Like this shit is funny to them. Hello. I mean, I'm asking anybody to really rationalize this for me because my rational brain can't understand. I felt in the United States as a black person, as a not even a black woman, just like as a black body, like the United States did not value my life. As black man after black man after black woman after black child was murdered, choked to death, knee on the neck to death, like Eric Garner's I Can't Breathe. Fast forward to George, like we're still doing this. Seeing, it's like so many names. The ones that we know of, the ones that are caught on dash cam or video cam, like the creation of cell phones did something. As much as I push against technology, like we are surveilling each other all the time with our phones, and oftentimes, or our ring cams, and oftentimes the only way we know exactly what happened is because it was caught on camera, because before the oppressor was telling only their side of the story. justifying the death of someone in custody because that person cannot now speak for themselves to say anything to the contrary. Having a black man just going for a jog and getting murdered by vigilantes who went free for months. It's not like it's a swift justice. It has to be fought for, it has to be marched for. Our humanity and our deserving of justice has to be screamed at the top of our lungs in multiple cities across the United States for like people to charge someone for the loss of life, of innocent life. It is not justifiable homicide. I just didn't feel like, along with other things, the consumerism and the focus on what you have as opposed to who you are and who you know as opposed to the kind of person that you are. I wanted to leave. I left. And then I came to Europe and I've traveled all throughout Europe. The way that other countries treat their citizens is livable. My friend, who's also from the United States, she's from New York, so she's lived through the most challenging of cities. She made it work and she loved it, and she left that for Europe or literally any other place in the world. She was in South America. She preferred to live in South America than the United States. And now she's in Berlin. She got this incredible apartment for her and her family for a couple hundred. She pays less than what I pay for my apartment. And they have great health care. They have free kindergarten, and school is free. And I have a friend in the Detroit area who doesn't work. Like, it's cheaper to be a stay-at-home mom than it is to work and pay $1,500 for two kids to go to daycare. Then I realized the difference in the quality of the food. I wondered why my physical illnesses cleared up when I moved to Europe. I had rheumatoid arthritis, which is basically like when your joints or your ligaments eat away at each other. They see your own body as something to fight. Um, and then I moved to Europe and I went to the doctor and I was like, yeah, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I might need to like get checked. And they were like, yeah, we see very small traces, but nothing to like start a treatment with. Like, it just gradually went away. I haven't had any issues with it since. The There are a lot of foods that you cannot import from the US to Europe because the ingredients used in the food in the US are banned here. They're banned in most places. But the United States does not properly regulate what goes into the foods that you eat. Even the stuff that's organic and uh, supposed to be with less chemicals, it's, if you look at the list of ingredients, it's like a bunch of stuff that you probably don't know or can't pronounce. Or there was someone on TikTok who showed a ketchup in Canada. It had like 7 ingredients or something, and then the one in the US had like 30 something. There's a lot of really not great stuff going into the food that you eat, and you oftentimes don't have a choice, especially if you are in a food desert, which is in a lot of well, do I want to say urban? A lot of areas where there's a high Black population. They live in food deserts where they don't have access to whole foods and even that higher quality of food. So we have cost of living, US versus anywhere, lack of health care, terrible quality food. the rise in, well, it's not really a rise, a continuation, an explosion of white supremacy. The gun violence has gotten exponentially worse since I lived there. When I grew up, we didn't do shooter drills at school. A school shooting was not something that I ever thought about facing, not even at university. Like, it never, okay, Columbine, yes, but it didn't decrease after that. It rose. Instead of saying this horrible thing happened, like, what can we do to prevent it from happening again? It got unbelievably more common, not exclusive to schools. Anywhere, grocery stores, movie theaters, churches, streets, homes. It's I actually understand the apathy of people who live in the United States. I do. I understand. Coming from there, like now, like my whole body is full of anxiety, and I'm just so unbelievably forever changed by watching this genocide happen in real time and seeing people just like continue on as business as usual. And it's no shade, if I can say that. Because when you live in the United States, I went there for an extended period of time, the longest time I've been in the United States since I left. And sitting in traffic, it was the year of the year anniversary of the Uvalde shooting, where all of those young children were shot to death by a school shooter while the police stood outside the classrooms for, I don't know, like an hour or something, almost. And I was like, do we have to keep talking about this? The apathy slapped the fuck out of me. And I was like, I've spent too long in the United States because it's so much. There's so much to worry about that you really can't worry about anything. Like, from the outside, my friend who's French and she lives in Berlin, she was like, I used to ask my friends, like, do you not see what's going on? Like, how are you just like not burning everything down? And they're like, what do you mean? Like, it's life. This is life. When you are in the mud, like you can't just sit and like think about the mud and be like, mud. You just have to like do your best to survive, get out, whatever you can do to get out of the mud, like you do it, but you don't sit and like think critically about it and get angry, and you cannot exert your energy on being upset and outraged by the situation that you are constantly living in. And I imagine that this is what it's like for people in Gaza, the people who are still hearing the call of prayer and going out and praying to God every time someone is martyred, and singing and saying that they will not leave. This is their reality. This is their home. If they allowed the anger to consume them, then they would eat themselves from the inside out. That is how the oppressive force wins. They want to suck the life out of you so that you can no longer fight them. And I had to get out of the United States in order to fight the oppressive force that had been implanted into me. It was inside. There was no need for anyone to tell me anything because I had been programmed my entire life based on the cues that I was receiving from the outside, on my own value, who it was that I was, who I should aspire to be, what kind of life I should want to live, what kind of things I should want to have, what goals I should aspire to, what I should believe. It came from outside. I was a reflection of whatever it was that I was consuming, that I was seeing, that I was being told, that I was being taught. Living outside of that, what I call a box, has opened my eyes up to the fact that you do not have to live like this, whatever this is. If it's not an elevated, wholesome, happy existence, if you are not feeling completely resolved in everything that is going on in your life, if you are not in a state of peace at all times, you do not have to live like this. There is a way to live that allows you peace, that allows everyone peace. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. What kind of life is it that you want to live? Is the life that you're living serving you? The life that I lived in the United States did not serve me. And now to see not only the systematic oppression of people of color, and this is nothing new. And this is why I believe anyone who activates, anyone who is an activist and an advocate and a supporter of the equality that is believed to be owed to Black people in the United States and across the diaspora should be afraid and outraged and an activist for what's happening in Palestine. I previously shared so many of the United States police departments have been trained by Israeli forces. The militarization of police after Ferguson, which I again implore you to read the book, Freedom is a Constant Struggle. After Ferguson, it was very clear how militarized the US police were. The way that protesters were being yanked off the street in New York City during the George Floyd protests in unmarked vans. Like, many communities in the United States are currently living in a police state. And our struggles and our quest for freedom and liberation and peace are intertwined. It is possible to live in a place where you have everything that you need. You have your basic human rights, and you are afforded a life that you can enjoy. You don't have to work long hours or have multiple jobs in order to pay rent. There are other countries functioning like this. I live in Spain. They take siestas. There is a break in the middle of the day for several hours where people just don't open. It doesn't matter if it's hot outside or not. That is implemented into the structure of the society. Businesses shut down for a month. They can afford to do that apparently because they shut down for a month because they take their summer holidays. Everybody deserves time off. Everyone deserves holidays. Everyone deserves rest. Everyone deserves affordable accommodations. Everyone deserves to be able to enjoy their lives while they're living it. Not when the war is over, not when you retire, not one day. You deserve to enjoy your life every single day that you are living it. Three. I grieve so deeply the loss of life happening in any part of the world. But most urgently, the people's lives who are being martyred in Gaza and now the West Bank. If you are not current on what is happening in Palestine, in the West Bank, in Gaza, or even in Israel, I implore you to diversify your consumption whatever it is that you're consuming, like try to diversify it. My friend does this thing where she looks to see who someone is following. So if you're on social media, and a lot of times, like now, we're on our phones all the time and our world exists through our phones. Whoever it is that these people are following, if it's like a monotype, and for this particular person, it was all blonde women. 98% of the people that they were following were blonde women. That is the world that they see. That's the world that they have created. If you spend a lot of time on Instagram, the people that you follow shape the world, unless you are also like obviously like interacting with the world, hopefully. But in order to expand your world and you diversify the things that you're consuming, you learn so much more. Like I didn't know that Uruguay was a part of Brazil until 1825. Just learned that today. You can always learn something new every single day. There's a FedEx truck. That's my mom. Every human life is precious. Whether it's a Black woman sleeping in her house in the United States, or it's a Palestinian woman sleeping in her house in Gaza. The United States government does not only not function how it should for its own citizens, it doesn't function how it should on a global scale. The United States is supposed to be the world leader in so many things, except like education and quality of life. The things that the United States excels in is gun violence, gun sales, and the rate in which they imprison their citizens. Those are the leading numbers coming out of the United States. There is 1 year until election time. I always hoped somehow that the living condition for people in the United States would get better. I left before the 2016 election. And I was like, well, I'm not going back for at least another 4 years. And then I got a little bit more hopeful after the next election, minus the insurrection and the trying to steal the election part. I was hopeful when I saw eventually that justice was taking course. But now, given that the current president is fully okay with supporting and funding genocide, it really makes it quite challenging for me to want to go back there. And it is really I'm not sure if you know what it feels like to feel like you cannot go back to your home. Like a lot of people feel that way. Their home is so unsafe for them. Imagine someone from the LGBTQ plus community. Maybe the home that they grew up in is not safe for them to go back to. There's too much trauma there. It's too much danger. They're not allowed to be their full selves. They're not allowed to live their full existence in this space. Everyone should be able to go back home. Everyone should be afforded a safe life. That should not be something you have to protest for, boycott for, plead for. And I just wish that more people would be open to revolutionary change in their own lives. I did it. Okay, I'm going to pick this card. I've been holding these cards the whole time. My Oracle deck. Air. So I'm going to read to you what it says in my guidebook that I still consult. Logic, critical thinking, facts, information, research, and reasoning are required at this time. You may also need more information before proceeding. Drawing this card asks you to call on the element of air to help you in finding healthy resolutions. Meditate with this symbol to call on more of the air element in your life. Enhance logical thought and inspire new ideas. Use incense, channel writing, and journaling to enhance the power of this element. This is the alchemical symbol for air. And with that, I bid you adieu. I am at a loss for words, even though I've been talking for over 20 minutes.